Welcome to another edition to Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. You know something? This show originated from one of the more than 300 motivational quotes I had created for the contents of my book. Curious, I always wondered how the same quote landed on one person to another. Are there words that just lay there on the page, or were there conversations that need to be had? But you know what happened? We meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am joined with a group of very highly intelligent people that I call my friends, but on this show, they're co-hosts. We have our voice of the show, Mr. Otis Spencer. We have educator, okay, philanthropist, entrepreneur, Mr. Paul Brown. And for those of us that's keeping us in touch with the universe, we have a couple people in here that are more connected with the energy here. We have Miss Francine Tesla, all right, and the loving couple. You are the apple of my eye. I think there's a song like that, Christopher and Gilda. And then we have our poet, as you know it, spoken word teacher. She's a defender, a warrior of children, an educator in Boston Public Schools, Miss Denise Lopes. And then Jessica and Peter Chichester. Oh, yes. Yeah, I know at first glance you look at it, it's like Gloria Estefan, you know? She's got looks. She's 100 years old and she looks like she's only 18. All right. She has found this fountain of youth and she's been dating a Chippendale for a long time. I think she married him, Mr. Peter Chichester. And, and if we had the voice, the sound, the face, the energy of Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends, we have Miss Lornez Kinsey. And hi, I'm Kevin McLemore, your host. And so today, I'm going to open this show with that silky smooth sounding voice, Otis Spencer, with a quote for today.
Good morning, everyone. And today's quote is, "Be like water and wind, my friend," by Bruce Lee.
All right, all right. So, Mr. Paul Brown,
Yes.
you know, you are working on so much in New York, doing a thing over there. And then all of a sudden you come up here and say, be like water and win, my friend. Add a little twist to Bruce Lee.
Yes.
Now, how did that quote land on you?
Well, that quote landed on me years ago. I started out training in martial arts, and I mean, this goes back to maybe like 1967, where Bruce Lee came to my teacher's school in Baltimore. He was there with Riley Hawkins and Michael Stinson, who was part of the Avengers initiative. And they were taking kids off the street and taking them in and teaching them martial arts, again, to give them a better way of life. I just was fortunate enough that one of my neighbors, who was a cousin to Grandmaster Riley Hawkins, had gave me the opportunity of a lifetime to train with them at an early age, and I happened to be in the right place at the right time. And Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, Bob Wall, all these guys, came with his entourage. They all came to the school, and they were basically going to be fighting with my two teachers there. And one of my teachers, he was like the master of the double spinning back fist. And so what happened with all of us kids being there and watching and seeing what was going on, we sat down and like and with our legs crossed, looking and listening to these guys go backwards and forwards about who had the better styles. And then it turned into the fact that Bruce Lee, he was just starting out to do the Green Hornet series during that time period and getting out there with his style of martial arts and everything, but he had a nice little following of these guys who claimed that they taught him and showed them all these different things. But the reality of it was that he was actually showing them new ways of basically relating to martial arts techniques. And so they jumped on the ideals of following him around. And they just kept going to these different schools and trying to exchange their knowledge of what they thought they knew. So he bypassed the fact of getting into the actual fight with my teacher and also with the assistant teacher that we had there, who was Michael Stenson. And these guys were no joke. These are those kind of guys that you just don't want to meet nowhere because they were just that good. Anytime you get somebody like Bruce Lee and all these guys to come and make a challenge to them, So he saw that, there was some young folks in the class and everything. And then he changed his mind about fighting due to the fact that he had a chance to talk to us as kids. But he took a liking to me in the process of it, and he just says, "My name is Lee, Bruce Lee," kind of thing like that, like he did in the thing. And he says, "Now, what kind of martial arts is that you're training in, and what are you doing?" And so I said, "My name is Paul Brown, show me right Okinawa style," kind of like that as a little kid, because you don't know who these people are. So, and he says, "Well, show me, some of what you do." So I got there, did a few of the kicks, show him a few things in between, and it made him look, and he decided, that day would be a day of pulling all of them. And he told my teachers, he said, "Well, you can't train him like you train everybody else. You have to train him a little bit differently from everyone else. And as you get older, you'll see what I mean." So then by the time I got 13, from all the learnings and the trainings, he said to me, "Take what is useful whenever it's not, get rid of it." And over the derivative of him, basically laying that on me, that's what made me become what I became in that process. So by the time I got 13, I was beating adult black belts and fighting. And then it turned into the fact that they would take their black belts off and put their green belts on just to fight in that process. So the teachers saw that this was kind of a really interesting challenge. And then they decided that they would have at least about 3 or 4 or 6 different martial art masters that would join in with them. And I start training in those different styles of fighting all in one in the course. And the deal at the end, when I, got the chance to achieve my brown belt, they said that when you become a black belt, in order for you to become a black belt, you have to do a point fight with us. And the point fight was my way of getting my black belt by beating all 6 of them in that process. I trained and I learned efficiently the styles that they taught me, but the lessons of what he taught me in that process, it changed into the philosophies of be like water, my friend. He said, take what is useful and whatever's not, get rid of it. And so as I went on to learn in the years, the ideals of the wind fighting system came about with me creating a style fighting that was based on the concepts of the wind, and it dealt with all the elements that came along with that. But Bruce Lee had that special attribute, where that I consider him to be more like the Martin Luther King of martial arts. And a lot of people would kind of relate to him in such a way over the years, and not knowing that years later that he passed away, unfortunately, not seeing some of his work being realized. But he laid the groundwork down for us to say, whatever I show you, take it and take it to the next level, or do or take it and be the best at whatever it was that you were doing. And during that time period, it was something that stayed with me. And then afterwards, I said, well, why don't I create my own system just like he did, and make it where that it would be effective? And so the wind fighting system was born out of the styles of all the many styles that I've gotten involved in. But then as I got along in this process of traveling and fighting and doing all these different things, that I had the chance to train champions and people throughout. And I took that philosophy of saying, train, be the best that you can be, and don't take how you say, a wooden nickel, as they say, or a back seat to anything, and apply it to your life. And also the spiritualness of everything that I've learned came in this understanding of being determined about, uh, overcoming any challenges that stand in your way. And so that allowed me to go through the process of everything from military to dealing with personal issues in life, and the challenges that I would face throughout, where I didn't allow myself to get involved in any problems of drugs and alcohol or anything like that, or doing anything that will put me in a bad light. If I went through any changes, it was for me to make the betterment of myself and others that I was surrounded by looking to set the best example I can possibly set. So in this process of applying those words, when you see him in all of the talkings that they have with him, he explained it in terms of not being in any fixed forms or any anything that would limitate him. And he says the only way that that you will be able to create something on a different level, or do anything, you would have to have 6 arms and 6 legs to present some sort of a new style of things and everything else. So he said that he just didn't believe in styles anymore. So with me looking at this being with everything being fixed positions, I decided that I would just, by any means necessary, to be able to conquer or develop a fighting system that had to go beyond the normalcies of forms and cotters and different things like that. Because when you're in a real situation, you really don't have time to think about those things. You just have to be able to react and do what you can to get yourself out of the circumstance, but in ideals of using common knowledge and common sense. And this is where all the spiritualness comes in, because with your belief and faith that you believe in, the kind of levels of where most people are in their religions and their beliefs, you can imply all these things in to make yourself in a solid way. So you have mind, body, and spirit, coming and co-relating into one thing. And this will allow us to overcome a lot of atrocities, despite of what's in your face, that kind of thing. So when you relate to this, you relate to it in the ideals of, like, when you say be like water. Water, is one of the things that can penetrate rocks. It can find the path of least resistance. It helps you to overcome. It can become a solid. It can turn into a mist. It can just do some wondrous things, and as well as destroy, as well as keep you together and keep you healthy. Wind fighting was derived in the ideals of saying that you're moving like the wind, and spiritually you're moving in different area spaces. Sometimes what you try to do in these situations is that you use your common sense to keep yourself from falling into, like, for instance, everything don't necessarily have to be a fight, but it has to be an understanding. And if you know how to choose your words properly and think before you speak, there won't be any regrets, coming back to you, just in process of understanding. But you use these concepts of all of these, earthbound or natural ways of being able to apply yourself whenever you go to do the things that you do, and it allows you to be efficient in your ways. So it all, fell in as a learning lesson for me. And I went around and tried to learn as much as I could from all the philosophies and all the understandings of what all this would entail in order to have a grand impact on your life. So whatever challenges come your way every day, you have to meditate and focus on these things in order for you to bypass or to get through, some of the hardships that may face us. And as a people, we all have to come together and work and help each other in these circumstances, and learn how to apply them in the proper sense so that we can continue our success. And
It is amazing.
Mhm.
This eclectic group of people, who
Mhm.
would have known from very simple quote, be like water and the wind, that we would get an actual student, someone that has actually been in the presence, have actually been in the shadows of a
Mhm.
Mr. Bruce Lee.
Mhm.
It's amazing with this podcast. And for those of you guys that are just tuning in, this is a format that we invite, brand new people in. Everyone comes in, they participate. Everyone has to be on camera. If you not on camera and not participate, we got to let you go. But there's so much information here. I often thought that, when we opened the door and let Larnez speak, that she had no competition on here. Gilda's a person of very few words, but I'm
Mhm.
going to tell you, for the last 20 minutes, we've listened to Mr. Paul Brown. Larnez, I'm telling you, I'm going to hate to ask you to come up next, but I'm going to go ahead and forego this to Francine. Carol Batiste, get you on camera. Otherwise, I got to let you go. So, Francine, with this quote, and for those of us that have just joined in, um, our voice, Mr. Otis Spencer, is going to deliver the quote one more time before either Carol leaves us or she sets up her camera to be on. So, Otis, one more time with the quote.
And the quote is, be like water and wind, my friend.
All right, Francine.
Thank you guys. That
All
was a
right.
really cool. That was a really cool story, Paul. I
Thank you.
really enjoyed it. You should write something about that, but we'll talk about that another time. Um, it actually kind of makes sense because we had some interesting weather this past week. So, be like the water, my friend. It is a really powerful quote that encourages all of us to be more adaptable and to be flexible like the natural elements. Um, Imagine like we had the windstorms the other day. I mean, there was a bunch of trees down all over the place, some really crazy weather. So you have a palm tree and then you have an oak tree, right? Same scenarios. We have the winds, everything's going crazy. And basically, when the storm is over, most of the time, the palm tree is still left standing up because it moves with the wind. It goes back and forth. Even though the oak tree is like, it's most likely snapped because it is the rigid entity, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of an interesting reference because we just all went through that. Now, it also reminds us that we have to learn to adjust to any situation that comes to our way and flow with the changes, just like the water and the wind. You know, the quote inspires us to aim to be the gentleness and the peace of the wind because the wind can be very peaceful. And oh, I heard some weird thing in the background. And then the wind is like also being solid and persistent like the water when pursuing our goals. And it serves as a reminder that we can overcome any obstacle and achieve the success for these qualities, if that makes any sense. So the water, even though it's really beautiful, you can go to a lake or you can go to the ocean. It's beautiful, but when we have a storm or you get caught in the riptide, you have to kind of find another way to navigate out. So the two together, it's a really interesting experience. Um, so that's how it hit me. And, you have to kind of take a breath, and especially since we have the eclipse tomorrow, a lot of people are going to be a combination of the water and the winds, and you just have to kind of navigate. So that was how it hit me. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right. You're the only person that heard the sound in the background. So
Yeah,
maybe that
I was getting some background. Yeah.
okay. All right. So am I muted? No, I'm not muted. All right. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
All right. So it's amazing. Because Bruce Lee, the original quote, he basically said empty your mind and become almost formless, with the water. The water is one thing. When you dip your finger in it, there's ripples, and every ripple has its own definition, and it comes and it goes. And the wind directs the water. Um, so this conversation, I'm not surprised how many different directions it's going to go in. And for our listeners, be like water. And sometimes it's time, because of what's going on with the energy and how you connect to the universe. Maybe it's time for the next couple of days, you just sit still and just be. And so, Gilda, with that said, all right, I always save her for last, but not today. All right, Gilda, be like water and the wind, my friend. How's that land on you?
Well, for me, you are stronger than your greatest fears. That's how it lands on me. Because right at this point, earlier I had said that I have to do something to fight my fears. So this quote landed on me to be stronger like water. So this way I can fight. I'll be great at fighting my fears. So
All right.
that's how it landed on me.
And we all know we now with Mr. Paul Brown, famous name, we have our own defender of champions here. So if anything ever happens to the group of us, we just step back and so let me introduce you to Mr. Paul Brown. Go ahead, take it away. Okay. Don't mess with us, not the Sunday crew. Um Peter Chichester, how does this quote land on you?
It lands on me. It always lands on me a very specific way, right? A very motivational way. And the full quote, right, which a lot of us know is, put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. and be like water. And that sounds great in the sense of going with the flow, but also if I put it into kind of a more heady space, if I was around negative people, then I'm going to become negative, right? So I don't have to become the surroundings or the atmosphere I'm in. So I kind of want to divert the quote a little bit, and I love the quote, but just in that essence. But there was another, and I don't know who said this, but it was, we can't direct the winds, but we can adjust our sails, right? So I might be in an area that I'm not comfortable with, but I know where I want to go, right? So I can set my headings and I can work with the wind, right? Become with the wind, work with it to get where I want to go. So maybe a little bit different view on it. But I love Bruce Lee. I love the quote. I love the motivational aspects of it. But ultimately, just don't fight against, the situation. Like, go with the flow of things. It's going to work out. God's got an amazing plan for you. It always works out for the best. Um, and just go with the flow. So be like water. Don't fight against the universe, the chi, the God, whatever it is. That's my take.
That's why I love these quotes, because it brings out something up in all of us. Never did I ever think that we would have a quote that would land us in the same space with a living legend. We have on this show Mr. Naheem Garcia, that's played opposite to an Oscar-winning actress, and then we have Larnez. Um, so Larnez Kinsey, my co-host. My protector when I'm out in public. So watch out. I got Paul Brown and Larnez. I always tell people I'm more introverted in my private life and extroverted because I have to be in my public life. So um, sometimes I'm that wind in a calm storm, and Larnez becomes that ripple in the water. Larnez, how does this quote land on you?
Um, Wind and water are not just elements of nature, they are symbols of divine energy and universal flow. Wind represents the spirit, the unseen force that moves through all things, while water symbolizes the soul, the deep wellspring of inner being. When we link wind and water, we tap into the divine rhythm of life itself. We become like vessels filled with boundless energy of the universe. Just as Bruce Lee mastered the art of martial arts, we too can master the art of living in harmony with the cosmic flow. We have to embrace the dance of wind and water. Let the spirit guide you like the wind, and your soul flows like water. The divine union, I'm trying to reach for my words. It's like
I
the
had a
divine
flashback.
union is, huh?
I thought Maya Angelou just showed up.
Oh, sorry. um, this divine union, it's there is power, there is grace, there is infinite possibility of transformation. When you link wind and water in our lives, the dance of the rhythm of the universe, it unlocks the fullness of your divine potential, and you can become the master of your destiny. So I like to reference this. If you put a pot of water on the stove and you turn up the flame, the water turns to steam. And if you turn the flame up a little bit more, that steam becomes ether. You can't see it, but it flows throughout the room. It carries your messages. So me knowing that I'm always surrounded by ether, I'm always navigating through wind and water. And that's how this landed on me.
And I like your analogy with the boiling water. You cannot see your reflection in a pot of boiling water. Similarly, you cannot also see your truth when you're in a state of anger. Clarity comes when the water is calm. So Arnez, thank you. And I apologize for interrupting, but all of a sudden when I looked up and I'm going, damn, Maya Angelou came back and it was you. Christopher, I'll try not to interrupt you, but I felt a kind of way when Larnez, my co-host, was speaking. Christopher, again, thank you for your service. I'm going to thank you every single show. After touching the hand of a Tuskegee Airman, of feeling history, feeling the pain of what someone fought so hard for us to even be able to be allowed to be on this platform, for Paul Brown, to be able to touch and get the message for someone as famous as Bruce Lee, that all he wanted to do is create harmony against mankind. And we all know his story. The Asian people suffered similar plight to Black people, Hispanic people, and Jewish people. So we all also, understand that we all, as this country, need to be more like water, find a calm place to settle down, be like the wind, put our toes in the sand, and just be calm and appreciate life for what it is, an opportunity to do great things. And so with that said, I'm going to forego any more conversation and leave it to, tall, dark, and handsome. Thank God you're in Boston. Otherwise, you'll be in a Stetson, because he is one good-looking man in real life. I know why Gil is holding on so tight to him. So, Christopher James, how you doing? How does this quote land on you?
I'm good, Kevin. Thank you so much. That quote couldn't be more nautical if it tried. I mean, you spoke direct to the sailor in me. I have a unceasing respect for both wind and water. They're just part of my existence. I cannot really identify a specific attribute, either wind or water, has allowed me to emulate in my own personal life. But I just feel connected through those two elements, to the ocean, to the sea. Besides being, I've always felt that that's where that's our closest kin to, on the planet. It's 75% water and 25% other elements. That's our makeup. But to spend time as I have on the sea, there's a connection that goes almost beyond spiritual. You simply are a part of that vast body. I think on my last long tour on the ocean, I think back to the Polynesian navigators, the ones that hopped from island to island to island to island to island. They didn't have fancy, GPS. They didn't have fancy radar. They basically had the wind and the ocean, and through those two elements, they were able to navigate, all right, from one island to the other. And oftentimes it was no more than sight, feel, or touch, or feel, and just basically listening to all the signals the land, the ocean and the air gave them. Wind would indicate, wind basically indicated where the world or the ocean was moving at the time. The temperature of the water let them know basically where the nearest land source was. In other words, as the wind affected unseen land, it would part. It would basically part for that particular body of land, and then pick up again as you go past. In other words, it's like passing a lighthouse. All right, as you pass a lighthouse, anything in the way would eclipse it, and then as you pass to the other side, it would open up again. Well, Polynesian navigators actually got to where they could feel that change in the wind, that change in the ocean, to let them know there's land on this particular bearing, on this particular heading. So, the ocean, both wind and water, talk to us. They understand us as being part of them, and we should understand that we're part of the ocean. And there's a vast understanding in that. For me, particularly, I am at my calmest when I'm in the ocean. And in my happy place when I can actually see the ocean. And as far as any attributes that either water in its ability to take on any shape, or the wind in its ability to basically move larger objects, I really couldn't identify one specific attribute that I've taken from those two elements, but in whole or together, it's me, and I love them both. I love them as the ocean, the water and the wind.
And no better spoken words than to realize that we are part of this universe. We are on a cellular basis made up of the same elements as water itself. So no truer words spoken, my friends. Oh, just before Denise gives her share, we go to the spoken word person. For our listeners, can you give us the quote one more time?
Be like water and wind, my friend.
All right, let's see what happens when Denise lopes. Let it go. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you have been in the Boston area, Denise had a book signing of her latest book, which it was fabulous. From what I hear, I didn't get a chance to be there. I wish I could have, but I was there the week before. For anyone that wants to, see Denise, have her come to your library, your bookstore, or event. I'm sure Denise will let us know how to get in touch with her at the end of the show so she can do that. But how does this quote land on you? I know you heard a lot about the wind and the
A
water.
lot of people. It's hard to go
Right.
after everybody
All right.
else. But for me, you need to learn how to be still like water in order for you to be able to deal with what the wind will bring to you. Because it could bring chaos, it could bring things. And in Cape Verde, they have a saying, I'll go what the wind brings me. So if somebody asks you what you're doing, like sometimes you're just relaxing. I'm following the wind, what the wind brings me. And I had to learn to be still a lot, especially with the work that I do. I need to learn to be with myself and just learn to think and just relax and be with myself and see what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do, and hear that voice. Because I know when you sit still, you can hear what you're supposed to do, what God is telling you to do. For me, that was hard. Having two little ones with my divorce at night, that's what I decided to just think about it and write. So journaling came with that, like to learn to be still. And I learned how to meditate. So now I get up at 5 a.m. So I'm part of the 5 o'clock club. So that's how I do my first hour just by myself and write what I'm doing, meditating and doing my daily gratitude journal to see how I'm going to be able to conquer my day. And with the wind, it could be chaos, it could be anything else. Like after a big storm, you see everything is damaged, so you have to pick up the pieces. So if starting doing that in the morning, being still and doing all that for myself for the first hour has helped me to go to work more relaxed and be able to deal with people, because it's not the children, it's the adult that you work with uh, that sometimes makes your job really hard. Because when I'm in my classroom, I'm good until somebody else comes in, say something they're not supposed to say, or do something they're not supposed to do. And I do that the same thing with any relationship or anything that life throws at me. And that's been very helpful. And this quote has just hit me like, yeah, that's what you've been doing. Like seeing, like, so that's how it lands on me.
It's amazing based on perspectives and interpretation, how one very simple quote can go into so many different directions. And it's amazing. The power of words. Bruce Lee, he said it himself. And, Paul Brown, I'm going to ask you later on because I've seen a lot of the documentaries with Bruce Lee. And there was only one person I've ever seen in any of those classes or any of those reincarnations that looked like any of us or looked like you. I'm going to ask if that was you. So you were the little wind in a bottle of water for Bruce Lee. So, Jessica, our other connector to the universe, how does this land on you?
And yeah, everybody said so many delicious things that by the time I came on here, I was just like, yes, yes. Wait, hold on. And it's so interesting coming on here because you think you're going to start a certain way, and then all of a sudden, it's like the attack of consciousness, which is incredible, and the game changes for you. So, be like water and wind, my friend. It makes me think of when we take these groups on these shamanic retreats. Part of our business healing tours is we take these groups to a tribal community in Ecuador. And when we learn about the shamanic way, we learn it's the same model that's been presented itself throughout every religious text, every thought of practice and consciousness of just honoring the earth and all of the elements. But if everything is us, even God is us, a reflection of us, then everything outside of us is still us. So learning that embodiment of I am wood, metal, wind, fire, water. But water isn't just calm. Like I'm gonna challenge even what Denise said and just think about, I just want to be calm. And water is calm. But like after all of this, I'm thinking, water adapts to everything that it is. Nothing in the universe stays still. Our body is 76% water. We have learned from Dr. Emoto's experiment. He's a Japanese scientist I taught this to my students when I was a teacher for 20 years. They have 3 glasses of water, exact same water, exact same cup, exact same environment. One, he said, I love you too. One, he said, I hate you. And one, he completely dismissed and didn't pay attention. And when we look at the sonics of water, we see after a period of time that different crystalline shapes took place with the attention that we brought to that water. So obviously the water that was said, I love you to, it had this beautiful snowflake crystalline shape. And the one that said, I hate you, it had a dissonance. Okay. It looked disrupted. And the one that wasn't paid attention to, it looked like it was growing mold. So what happens to us? What happens to what we say? Even when we tell ourselves, I need to be calm, maybe the water in you, it's all about adapting. Maybe the water inside of you needs to part the seas right now. Adapt, right? Your soul doesn't care what you do for a living. And when your life is over, neither will you. Your soul only cares about what you are being while you are doing whatever you're doing. So it reminds me to come into a space of being. Let myself be frozen over if that's what it needed to be, adaptable. Let myself blow. Let myself be the metal. Surrender to the strength, the flexibility, the resilience, the calm, and the storm. Embrace all of it, the power and the yielding, and watch when we say yes to all these elements, as we say yes to all the different archetypes that are within you, which is a journal that I wrote last year, all about awakening the wild within. And it's a dance through the 7 archetypes and the roles that we play every day. When we can invite all of this in, when we can invite the mother, the father, the brother, the sister, the warrior, the peacekeeper, the truth seeker, and the joker, right? When we can invite all of these elements in and then be like this water, this adaptability, this spirit, this Holy Spirit that is you, living in you as you, then we are just, who knows what's going to happen, but we know it's going to be good. So that's how this quote lands on me.
It's amazing. And as many times your brain has spent with the interpretation of all of our other co-hosts, Jessica, you stole my little analogy. I wasn't going to put it the same way, but I was going to put it almost the same way. So with the love, and I was always taught if you yelled and screamed at a tree, that it would bend no matter how much you watered it and how much you festered it. But if you told it you loved it and you watered it and whatever, it would blossom. if you let it stand still and ignored it, it would lose its leaves. So I'm glad you said it that way. I don't want to follow you ever again. But thank God Naheem Garcia is here, co-star of the Holdover. He is an Oscar-winning performer. He was the love interest of an Oscar winner. He is also the star of a great play in Boston, and we're always happy that I know he's wrapping up right now, and he joined us. And you talk about another deep, deep thinker, which we have plenty on here. We have a lot of people with a lot of love in their heart. So hopefully, for those of you that are tuning in, we're not filling your cup with anything else other than love and compassion. And the fact that right now, if you feel the wind that we're blowing on you, celebrate it. All right, because Otis is going to give you this quote one more time before Naheem gives us his, and then Otis is going to line up, and with that silky smooth sounding voice of his, that baritone, he's going to tell us his quote, and then we're going to wrap up the show. So Otis, one more time for our listeners, and Naheem, get ready.
All righty. For Naeem, be like water and wind, my friend.
The elements of, first of all, peace, everyone. My voice is a little sore. The elements of nature is something that we all need to be in tune with. Like Storm in the X-Men, she had the power to control the elements. We don't always have that ability. We don't always have the ability to control all the elements around us, but we do have the ability to control our inner elements. Jessica was saying something very serious about being like the water, being like the wind. These elements affect our mood. They affect the way of thinking. They affect the way we feel about each other and about things in life. You know, when the weather's bad, we feel it. When the weather's good, we feel it. Either way, be like fire and wind. The fire is what we say in the cast every night when we're performing the play. You know, bring the fire. We have 6 or 7 elements of fire that we need to bring to the people. The heat, and also the fire represents the elevation of light. But the fire could also harm if you don't know how to harness it. The wind is needed because the wind blows our sail, sends us on a mission on a certain way that we want to flow. So being fire and wind is something very interesting. Not all of us have that ability. Not all of us can do those things, yet we do those things if you think about it, because we all have fire in us. We all have wind in us, but it's just a matter of how you control those elements and how you deal with those elements. Yes, we all want to be calm and we want to be cool, but sometimes you got to put some heat on them. Sometimes you got to put some heat on them. Sometimes you got to blow it out. And sometimes you got to keep it calm. So being part of the elements is being able to control your balance your inner self, balance how you feel about yourself, and balance how you deal with somebody else. Sometimes when we deal with other people, sometimes we don't know how to control our element. Sometimes we get too hot. Sometimes we blow too much wind. And sometimes we don't know how to control and equal out with our elements. So part of my duty in life is to learn how to balance. So I feel when I hear fire and wind, I think of balance, finding balance in my life and being able to balance things in my life, which is not an easy task. Finding balance is never an easy task. So I don't know if I hit it, but that's what I take when I hear it.
Oh, you hit that, Mo. You hit that, Mo. Otis. Oh, this has been so much fun. I hate sometimes when we have to end, and we always know when we're coming to close when the voice delivers it, and then it's hard for me to follow all you wonderful people, and I'm going to try to pull it all together. Otis, deliver the quote and give us your interpretation or perspective on this quote.
Sure. Be like water and wind, my friend. You're talking about 2 powerful forces. And keep it short and simple. No matter what life throws at you, you need to be very resilient. If the wind is blowing, you need to have strong roots so you can stand strong. If you're on the water, have that life vest so you can flow with the water. Survive. It's all about survival. And that's how it lands on me.
All right, all right. To our listeners, pick one. Let that emotion become your lotion for the day. Depends on how that went. Imagine the most beautiful male or female with a long locks of hair blowing on the sound stage or whatever, and they're just kind of going back and forth, feeling that wind. We don't know how it's rocking on the inside. We don't know how that mode's going, right? Naheem, all right? Remember this. Um, your happiness is the result of your life, how you choose your life. Adjusting your input is actually how your output in your life is going to be. Jessica talked about, the 3 cups of water, all identical, all filled to the same space. Bruce Lee said it's like an empty cup and how it ripples. You place love in your cup, and guess what happens? You ignore it and you wilt. You put hate, and just like the last couple of days with the universe, whatever, everyone's kind of going crazy. Here on the East Coast, the ground shook. Um, I would tell you it's always easier to blame someone else for your own situation, but it's always much more productive to search in your own heart to find the cause and fault. When I teach, I always tell people that does the ocean come to the beach, or does the beach come to the ocean? And no matter how you define it, whatever, at the end of the day, if you're standing on the bottom of the ocean, ask yourself where your feet are at. Ask yourself where your body's at. You become one with both. So create a conversation in your head that's still like the wind. And let that beautiful flow of the locks of hair, no matter if you have a lot or have very little or none at all, let your heart feel the breeze. All right. And that's what you carry forward within you. So I want to thank everyone for joining us and coming into this space. We meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everyone, we have an open invitation for you to join. Just remember, you have to be on camera. You have to participate. So there's no voyeurs in here. We are family. If you like what you've heard, you can see that not only this episode of Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends, but the other 125 that we have done. Go to RMK Productions and Network on our YouTube page. If you really like it and you're a person of high call to action, subscribe and follow. You'll get a little notification. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. And I want to thank my guest, Otis, the voice. I want to thank our philosopher, Mr. Paul Brown, the example of what love should look like and feel like. We have 2 couples on here, Jessica and Peter Chichester, Christopher and Gilda James. Our other medium on here, both Jessica and Francine are both mediums. Our spoken word artist, Denise Lopes, is here. Our thespian and my brother from another mother, my consciousness, my rock. Love you to death. My hero sometimes, I don't carry it all by myself. Sometimes I have to lend it to all of you guys to carry me. And I've leaned on all of you guys. For anyone that's ever lived with traumatic brain injury, sometimes my head doesn't show up. And these people here, they got me. They got me. And the person that runs, I cannot score without Larnez Kinsey. She's got my back. She always got my back. So with that said, Naheem, you're up. My grandfather always said, when you get to the point in life that you can help someone else out, it is your duty to do so. He said, reach one, teach one. And with that said, when Naheem unmutes, what do we do, Naheem?
Fade to black.
We fade to black, and we are out.